Tampa by Alissa Nutting. What an appropriate surname. Welcome, this is Check That Book, and we are going to follow a female paedophile for a change. Just because this book is centered around a female predator, it does not make it any lighter read. It does not make it any easier to digest. Because usually female predators are not really talked about and are unfortunately considered less of a threat, especially if this is a young, attractive, married teacher. The subject matter of this book again is child abuse, but in a completely different manner. There is no violence, no gore. It's very gentle in a way, very cunning in a way, and full of smut. So if you like that kind of stuff, I guess go for it. But it was, I will admit, it was difficult for me to finish this book. Personally also because I'm very, very far from this subject and I completely disapprove of everything that's going on there. Reading this book, I realized that I am equally as disturbed, if not more so, by this book in particular than, for example, The Groomer. Perhaps I've seen too much and I'm kind of desensitized, but it's not that much easier for me to go through some gore and violence and sexual assault and shit like that. But again, I can stomach it because I've been witnessing a lot of that in mass media, in literature, cinematography, and perhaps I grew a thicker skin in that regard. But this book is something totally different. The victims here, one victim in particular, Jack Patrick, I will call him Jack. Jack is a 14-year-old boy who obviously is in the very beginning of his sexual awakening, and that is completely normal. However, that's the cringiest part. You get a young, attractive female teacher snaking herself into his pants, basically. So besides this rather gentle approach to child abuse, molestation, we get a lot of, again, smut. We get quite graphic descriptions of sexual intercourse and self-pleasure. What you know what I'm talking about. This was a cringy read because I couldn't get it out of my head, the fact that we are dealing with adolescents here. It is a delicate age when the hormones are waking up, especially with the boys, and it's so easy to fool them, and that's exactly what our main character does. It's all make-believe, actually. For her, it's all make-believe. She thinks of herself highly as if she is some sort of a sexual awakening coach or something like that. She is never violent. She is never gratuitous. She's gentle. She's nurturing even, which was very, wow. It was so cringy. I couldn't. I could, but I couldn't. I finished the book and threw it away, not because the book is trash. No, the book is well written. For a debut novel, great job. Wow, Alissa Nutting, cool stuff. But I'm not going to read any of her works again, most likely, because if she will continue writing in that style, this is not for me. But it does not mean it's bad or anything. It's actually well written. It was just, it's amazing what it could achieve when I put this book on the same scale with A Child Called It, for example, albeit these two books and the circumstances differ a great deal, and A Child Called It is arguably one of the most gruesome cases ever. But this Tampa novel is also based on a true event, and you can Google it if you want, it's out there. It might seem much more light-hearted, but it actually isn't. From a psychological standpoint, this is fucking horrible. In this novel, the victim does not even realize that he is being abused, that he is a victim. It all seems so consensual, and as a matter of fact, it is consensual, and that's exactly what is being asked of Jack, our victim. Was it consensual? He says yes, and it factually is. But many people fail to realize that he was being psychologically manipulated into believing that this is consensual. It actually isn't. He was a victim of a predator, of a smart predator. He was gently coaxed into doing this. As a developmental psychologist myself, I completely understand why those boys fell for her, sort of, that particular one boy, Jack. I totally get it. It is explainable, again, take into account his age, but it is also a very dangerous slope, because we have the age of consent. He is clearly not at the age of consent, which automatically makes it wrong to engage with this boy. It is so wrong on so many levels, this entire story. And one of the aspects, besides the whole grooming thing and child abuse, sexual abuse that is, not violent, this is psychological violence. Besides all that, we have the fake marriage theme going on, and I really felt for the husband. Read the book if this sounds interesting, or again, if you're just curious and not really bothered by this subject, and if you're okay with a lot of smut. Can't believe I said it, but yes. But again, the husband figure here, I mean, he could have made some other woman, some other normal woman happy, but here she is, our main character, just taking up that space, just using her husband as a cover for himself, basically, because again, a married woman and a teacher, somebody who works with children to boot, is not considered a threat usually. As a book, not as a disturbing book, but just as a book, again, it's well written, it's an easy read, it is considered a tragicomedy, at least that's how the internet describes it. I did not find it funny, not at all. From the very first pages, you realize that, yeah, this shit's gonna be smutty as all hell, but the deeper you get involved with her, our main character, the more you realize that this is some sick bitch. She tries to describe her husband in as much of a negative light as possible, but I could see through it. I mean, it's obvious that she's not into him at all. She's into younger boys, and she's of course biased. Maybe he's not that bad of a guy. If this book sounds interesting, give it a go. I'll link it down below. And yes, just keep in mind that things like this do happen, and for some odd reason, we tend to skip these cases and skip sexual abuse inflicted by females. Do not ignore them. They exist, and they are even more, they're cunning. They're slithery. It's very easy to fall into that trap, so I suggest teach your children about sexuality at the appropriate moment. In order to do this, if you feel a bit helpless, do consult a psychologist. and just do not let this go. I mean, sexual education is important. Unfortunately, it is not as accessible as it should be in the appropriate frames, of course. If you like this sort of content, please consider subscribing to this channel and also giving this video a boost in a form of an erect thumb, as inappropriate as that might sound. Take care of yourselves and your loved ones and your children if you have any. Be mindful, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.